All right, hi, it's Mr. C with your Saxon Math. Today we're doing lesson 94, writing fractions and decimals as percents. This is part two, and the reason it's part two is we're going to show you a different way of doing something we've already done before. So we're looking at changing a fraction, a decimal, or a mixed number, any of those things, into a percent, this time by multiplying by 100. So first let's review the way we've done this in the past. Back in lesson 75, we practiced changing a fraction or a decimal by writing an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So if we started with 3 over 5 or 3/5, we would change that to what would be that over 100. So the way we did that is, how many times does 5 go into 100? 20 times. So we do 5 times 20, 3 times 20, and that gives us an equivalent fraction, 60 over 100. And por ciento of 100. Once we get to the 100, we know what's of 100. 60 is of 100, so it's 60%. We do that also with decimals. 0.4, we change that to 0.40 because that's to the hundredths decimal point. And then we know that the 40 goes on top and we have out of 100. So 0.4 is 40 100ths, which is 40 of 100, or 40%. So that's what we've done. We'll review that a little bit today, but we're going to show you a new way to do that now. In this lesson, we're going to change, instead of changing the denominator to 100, we're going to actually change the numerator, or multiply by 100 over 1. So the new numerator is 100%. So we're going to take that same 3/5, multiply by 100 over 1, which would give 3 times 100 equals 300%. 5 times 1 equals 5. Then we just divide 300 divided by 5, which gives us 60, because 30 divided by 5, remember, is 6. And we get 60%. So same answer, totally different way to do it. We can use the same thing with decimals. And actually, this is the easiest way to do decimals. So if we start with 0.375 and we just multiply that by 100%, remember, if we're multiplying a decimal by 1 with any number of zeros, we move the decimal to the right according to the number of zeros. So in 100%, we have 2 zeros. So here we would just take that decimal point, move it over 1, 2 times, so to 37.5%. Remember, to change a number to a percent, just multiply that number by 100, 100%. This is the easiest way to do decimals. Now with fractions, both ways are kind of difficult, but this is an easy way to do decimals. Yay, for something easy. All right, so here we're going to change 1/3 to a percent. So let's do it that first way that we learned with fractions. So we take the 1/3, multiply it by 100 over 1. 1 times 100 is 100. 3 times 1 is 3. Then we just take that 100 divided by 3. We can set it up like a fraction. Most of you can do this with mental math. What's 1/3 of 100? 33 1/3, or 33.3 repeating, right? And just as a reminder, that 33.3 repeating, the way that you write that is with a little line over the 3. 33 1/3%. Okay, so not too tricky on this one. Let's look at another one. Write 1.2 as a percent. Now, again, remember, if we're just multiplying it by 100%, we're just going to move that decimal place over twice, because 100 has 2 zeros. So if we go over once, it would be 12, but if we go again, we have to add that extra 0, so we get 120. Let me show you here separately. So we're just moving over 2 decimal points to 120%. This reminds us, you can have more than 100%. There's lots of things in this world that are more than 100%. So don't let that throw you. You can only give 100%, or you can only have 100% of certain quantities of things. But other things, like if the stock market goes up, this week I bought a share of General Electric at like $6. And then the stock market went up really quickly, and it's at $13 now. Well, that's more than doubled, so that's more than a 100% increase. It'd be about 120%, I think. I'd have to calculate that, but it's more than 100%. All right, so that absolutely happens. Write 2 1/4 as a percent. Now on this one, it's a little different. We're going to separate it. So we're going to take that whole number, and we can do that on this. So 2 would be 200%. So we can do that, and then we can calculate the fourth. But there's actually 2 ways we can do this. So let me show you the 2 ways. Method 1 is split the number in the fraction as I was just showing you. So it's 2 plus 1/4. So to do that, we just do 2 times 100 is 200%. 1/4 would be 1 times 100 is 100% divided by 4 gives you 25%. Then you add those 2 things together and get 225%. Our second way to do this is we change the mixed number to an improper fraction. So here we just do 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9, 9 over 4. Then we change the 9 over 4 to a percent by multiplying that by 100%. So we get 9 times 100%. Using counseling, we can change, because 4 goes into 100 4 times. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Then we can just do 1 times 1 is 1 on the bottom. So the top will give us our percent. 9 times 25. If you don't remember that off the top of your head, it's 225%. But the way I remember that is 4 goes into 100%, or 25 goes into 100% 4 times. So if we did that twice, that'd be 8. So 200% would be 8, and then add 1 more, and that's 225. That was confusing. Sorry about that. All right, let's look at 2 and a 6 as a percent. Now before, we could split it. There were the 2 methods. So we could just do the whole number and the second one. But 1/6 is one that you might not remember as easily. Like a fourth is easy to remember that it's 25%. So we probably want to use method 2 on this one. It shows method 1 is quick. If we can recall the equivalent percent. That's what I just said. So the method 2 is easier in this case. So we're just going to change it to a mixed number. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13, so we get 13 over 6. 13 times 100 is 1,300 divided by 6. And then we'll just calculate that out and get 216 and 2/3, or 0.6 repeating. All right, now we get to do a word problem. Yay! All right, 20 of 30 students. Anytime I hear of, I'm going to know that it's a divide problem. 20 of 30 students are girls. What percentage of the students on the bus were girls? We're just going to multiply that by 100%, right? Let me erase that and I'll show you here. So we're going to take that 20 out of 30 and multiply it by 100%. So we get, we can use canceling here. 20 over 30 times 100. 30 goes into 100. Oh, they're both multiples of 10. So divide 100 by 10 and we get 10. Divide 30 by 10 and we get 3. 20 times 10 is 200. And then over 3, that would be 66 and 2/3, 200 thirds. So that works. Or you don't even need to do 20 over 30. You can simplify that in the first place and just do 2/3. So 2/3 times 100, that's a little easier, equals 200 over 3. Gives you 66 and 2/3 of the bus were girls. So, and we know that if 20 out of 30, you can just think, oh yeah, 20 out of 30, that reduces to 2/3. Mental math says 2/3 is 66 and 2/3%, or 66.6 repeating. But as the problems get harder, you want to know the steps. All right, so that will do it. Here's some practice, your practice set if you want to try through it. You'll just have to hurry and screenshot it, and then I'm going to show you the answers here really quick.